transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN 350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Works St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for showers and storms overnight with a low around 51. Tuesday partly sunny with a high near 63. Wednesday showers and storms with a high near 62. And Thursday partly cloudy with a high around 59. Cafe Latte is the Eat Local Minnesota Restaurant of the Week. They have a bakery specializing in fresh breads and desserts, including their renowned chocolate turtle cake. Plus, they have a large variety of box lunch items ranging from sandwiches to truffle plates. Cafe Latte's on Victoria and Grand and St. Paul. Details at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanjahade, which means distant thunder. My taxpayer name is Robert Pilot, and I'm here with Wendy Pilot, and we're here in Macho Blue Earth Studios here in the Twin Cities, and we want to just give a big shout out to our friends in Madison. We love Madison, Wendy.
Yeah, we do. We haven't been there in a while, but over a year at least because of COVID. But
we love State Street and around the Capitol and all those vegan options.
A lot of good vegan options for me.
Yeah, and I marched in the Madison Scouts in the 70s, so I'm just always pleased to have anything to do with the city of Madison and the state of Wisconsin. And we all hate the Bears, so we all figured that out, so that we're good with that.
Yeah, we should let our Madison audience know that we are live on Facebook, and you could check us out live and see Ogama, who with the news, and Robert and I in our home studio. So yeah, check us out on Facebook.
Yes, take it.
I will. This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. You could call them at 651-304-9986. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And they take calls from anywhere in the United States. You don't have to live here in Minnesota or the Twin Cities.
It's fun. They know advertising works because they get calls
all over. Yeah.
Right. So So that's
It's
really
fantastic.
It's
Yeah,
exciting to know that.
it really is.
So
yeah.
before we get too much farther and cut into the news, we talk about sacred animals here. We talk today's kind of a medical day. We talk to our local doctor about COVID and what's happening all over here in Minnesota and the United States. And we also have a different guest coming on today too, Wendy.
Yeah, we do. We have Jasmine FunMaker, and she's with the Indigenous Perinatal and Lactation Support.
I'm glad you
group.
said that. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
good.
I'm glad I said it too.
So, without further ado, we talk about native news all over Turtle Island, which is the United States and Canada and all over. It makes a turtle. So, for you people that don't know why it's called Turtle Island.
And we want everyone to know that native issues are human issues and human issues are native issues.
Wow, very good. With that, we'll hand it over to Ogama with the news. Pinigigi, Ogama.
Hi, Anim Buju, everybody. This is Ogama Ganuikwe with news for you from Native Roots Radio. I wanted to first point out that Rise Coalition, which is based out of northern Minnesota, related to the Stop Line 3 pipeline, has an event called We're Still Here that's happening at the Bemidji waterfront tomorrow from 2 to 6 p.m. They were having some technical difficulties earlier today and had to take down the event and recreate it. So if you're planning on going, it's not canceled. Definitely show up there tomorrow. They are calling on drums and dancers. They're going to be doing a march, so please pack light. They're also going to be having live music by Thomas X, drums from Red Lake Treaty Camp singers, Josh and Ed Miller with hand drums. They are from White Earth, and Timberland Drum, who is from Leech Lake. So that is a really beautiful lineup, if I do say so myself. Also tomorrow at 7 in Park Rapids, Minnesota is going to be Salsa at Sunset, Tuesdays for the Water to Stop Line 3. That event usually has some really awesome live videos on Honor the Earth's website. It is hosted by them. It's a really awesome event. It's good to see everybody dancing and having a good time while also drawing attention to help protect water. Tomorrow, as well, at 7 p.m. until 8 p.m., is going to be an online conversation that you can attend from anywhere. It's called The Rights of the Mississippi River. It's part of a conversation series talking about what our relationship to water is. So make sure you go over to the Rights of the Mississippi River Facebook page and sign up for that if you don't have any plans for tomorrow night. And Sunday, MN350 is having their April Welcome event, and that one is going to be via Zoom. You can sign up at mn350.org. But I do believe 350 groups, they're in a couple of other states now, aren't they, Robert? I think there's a Madison 350, and I want to say there's one more. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a national one. They're all over the country, but I think one of the most effective is the one out of Minnesota. Sorry, Wisconsin and everybody else. But yeah, they have one of the bigger ones out of all, almost as big as the national one.
Exactly. Yes, they do a lot of really good work here in Minnesota. We really appreciate their sponsorship here too as well. So a little bit more on the Stop Line 3 thing. Cass County Sheriff's Department, for those of you who don't know, Cass County is in central Minnesota. They're currently seeking $352,576.22 in reimbursement from Enbridge, mostly for hours related to Line 3 project security, meaning they've been using Enbridge money to fund their police to go and do a safety patrol, which I can't admit, like, it must mean looking out for anti-Line 3 people and pulling over people like Jane Fonda, which happened recently, you know. It just, I wanted to make sure people are aware of that because it really highlights the unhealthy relationship between the police and Enbridge that's happening right now here in Minnesota, and I'm sure is poised to happen in plenty of other places, including Wisconsin as well. The Stop Line 3 fight's just kind of gearing up in Wisconsin right now. So if you're not aware of what's happening with Enbridge in that area, make sure you get tuned into that.
Right. We know that it took them a year to talk about an oil spill there and our neighbors in Wisconsin, and we feel for you.
15 months. 15 months before they reported an oil spill that they had in Wisconsin. Yeah, it's outrageous. So we all know that Fond du Lac band of Chippewa in northern central Minnesota, up near Duluth, kind of, has been, dealing with issues related to the Line 3, but they did get a win So they actually convinced the Army Corps of Engineers to temporarily halt the wetlands permit that were previously provided to a mega mining giant polymet, based on the fact that their downstream water would be polluted with possibly mercury. So this is the first time any downstream tribe has successfully exercised their right under the Clean Water Act to object to a federal permit. So that's pretty big news.
Whoa.
Really happy to hear that polymet is a bad deal for Minnesota in general as well. Some other events here that are coming up in North Dakota, the Minneapolis Clinic and Farm is collaborating with UND, and they're offering a public health program that helps to train community members and give them teaching with elders to work towards red willow, which is to grow and to learn the teachings around red willow, which is traditional tobacco. So you can go to the Minneapolis Clinic and Farm page on Facebook, and they do have a link to do the application there. They are accepting 8 people. And it looks like the amount of time you're going to have to allot is going to be from April 1st to April 28th. It's looks like a really cool event. We did share that to our page as well. The one last big thing I want to cover before we go is neonicotinoids. Have you heard of those yet?
No.
They are a type of EPA approved insecticide, which basically is they've messed with nicotine to turn it into an insecticide, but it's incredibly toxic to bees, and they are selling these plants with little signs that say they're treated with these neonicotinoids at like Home Depot and those kinds of stores. Those big box stores are selling these and trying to tell you it's safe because it's approved under the EPA. But the fact of the matter is it causes major hive collapse. It's super toxic to bees. So if you see those neonicotinoid plants, please don't buy them. Go get something organic.
Wow, people are still buying that other stuff that you spray all over too, your weeds and stuff. And there's big lawsuits on TV all the time. You can call these lawyers. What is it called? It causes
Roundup?
Roundup and all those others. It's crazy.
Yeah, we live in like 2 different worlds here. It
We
seems
really
like
do. The
it
people
really does.
who love pesticides and like us, we're like have a total organic yard and flowers and stuff. So
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Wendy, who do we got next?
well, we have next Jasmine FunMaker, and she's with the Indigenous Perinatal and Lactation Support. And
A lot of information.
Yes.
A lot of information. So, hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Stay with us. Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
We are your relatives.
We are your relations.
Brothers,
sisters,
sons,
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
This is Winona Duke of Honor the Earth, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio. I'm awake.
We are the Calusa Nation.
Hey, welcome back. Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hare.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 Hotline. Please call them at 651-304-9986. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you don't have to live in Minnesota or the Twin Cities to call them.
Wow, good call. Hey, so Wendy, Native Roots Radio is basically kind of like a magazine show. We're here, we promote things, what's happening. And
you are a conduit.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so are you. Oh, hey. So so why don't you introduce our next guest? And that's first time on, and this young warrior has a great information to pass around in our little magazine show.
I'm really excited. Her name is Jasmine FunMaker, and she's with the Indigenous Perinatal and Lactation Support. Welcome, Jasmine. Hi, Jasmine. Can you hear us?
I think you're on mute or something. We can't hear you.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, we'll get that straightened out in just a minute. And we'll have lots of questions for her. And
can you... Okay.
Okay. Well, maybe we can go to something else.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we were going to talk about is what's the name of the organization again, Wen?
The organization is the Indigenous Perinatal and Lactation Support.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then how important it is to have it natural and things like that. We've had
natural
them
births.
Yes.
Yeah, and Native American women weren't there like caves many years ago where women would go to have these natural births in these caves with like midwives, and they would do that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So I know there's one over by Mounds Park in St. Paul.
Jasmine, do we have you with us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Okay. Hi, Jasmine.
Can you hear us okay?
Hi. Tell us a little bit about your organization, the Indigenous Perinatal and Lactation Support.
Hello. Well, first of all, I'd like to start out by introducing myself. Hinikaragiwi Wangshik Raja Hashone Winga Hingari na Hunchiaki Karachwa Unangshana Jasmine FunMaker Machle Raja Hingari na Macho Horos Nyokawani Eja Hoadekshana. That is my native language. I come from the Ho-Chunk Nation. I'm originally from Black River Falls, Wisconsin. I'm currently residing in St. Paul, Minnesota. I am a member of the Bear Clan, and about our Indigenous perinatal and lactation support group. We are made up of 7 Indigenous women. We have nurses, a midwife student, we have 5 doulas, we have Indigenous breastfeeding counselors, peer lactation mentors, and peer moms. So what we do is we offer support to Native families in the Twin Cities. We are now all over Minnesota. We can offer pregnancy, lactation, postpartum support virtually and by the phone, text message, Facebook, or in person if you choose. Nitamising Gimashkikinaan is the name of our group, and that means our first medicine in the Anishinaabe language.
Cool. Hey, so how we'll get to your phone number out too and how to contact you, but how you been doing this during the pandemic? How are these services been working for you and giving them out?
So we had started, I would say 2 years ago now, and this was before a summer before the pandemic had started. We were actually a small little group meeting in South Minneapolis. We would start out with, a healthy Indigenous meal and offer support in person. Now that the pandemic has started, we are virtually meeting over Zoom every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. So now that we're meeting virtually, we've actually reached clients and members in Canada and in Mexico, as well as all over the U.S.
So, what do those meetings consist of? Is it support? Is it information, or all the above?
Yes, all the above. We usually have a guest speaker on who will cover a topic about, healthy recipes. We bead together on Zoom. We'll have the mothers ask questions on Zoom. We recently had a Anishinaabe wonk or Anishinaabe male on there, stating roles, what an Anishinaabe or Indigenous father, his roles, what he should be doing as a father. We've made breast pins, medicine pins together. Our next group will be planting seeds together of the 4 medicines. Whatever the mother needs, whatever the new mother needs, the pregnant mom needs, if she has questions, she can ask, and everybody gives their input.
That's awesome. So it's kind of like a support group, new mothers and mothers recently, and just supporting in a good way of how they can bring their new child up in a good way, in a healthy way, right?
Yes.
So we talk. What is the difference between being a midwife and a doula? Did I say that right?
Yeah, a doula. So a doula is a person trained. They're trained to provide physical, emotional, educational support during pregnancy, labor, and the postpartum phase. A doula mainly focuses on the mother, while a midwife focuses on the baby and the baby's health and needs. The doula will be there throughout the whole pregnancy, throughout the whole labor, and postpartum also. She'll help with breastfeeding and everything. Going back to the midwife, the midwife is there for the delivery and making sure baby gets here safe.
That's fantastic. Are they associated with any hospitals as well? Like in case there's
or clinic,
God forbid, an emergency?
Yes, well, doulas are actually privately hired or, chosen by the mother. So they're more of a support person. They spend a lot of time with mom before baby gets here so they can form a good, strong, trusting bond. And they go with mom to whichever doctor she would like to go to, whichever hospital she would like to go to, or midwife.
So I'd like to ask again, how do we get a hold of your organization? Is there a website? Is there a phone number?
Yes, you can find us on Facebook. Our Facebook is actually on there. You type in Indigenous Perinatal and Lactation Support - Nitamising Gimashkikinaan.
Yeah, that's a hard one, but we did put it up on our Facebook page with the correct spelling. So thank you, Ogama, for doing that.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, so we got a couple more minutes here. This is really exciting. We'd love to have you and your organization on, just checking in, because this is a great way to support our Native women all over Turtle Island. And I just got to ask you, who did you vote for District 4, Seat 1? Okay, all right.
So I never did an address verification, so I'm still using Gaga's address, Area 1.
Okay, we'll have to fix that for you real quick. But yeah, any last thoughts here? We got a couple minutes, and thank you for taking that fun joke a little bit. But this is exciting. So we got a website, any phone number. Your group's been around a couple of years, it sounds like, and
yes.
really taking off.
So if you would like to contact us, you can call Shoshana Craft at 651-325-9267.
One
Nice.
more
Give us
time.
that number one more time.
612, excuse me, 651-325-9267.
Perfect.
That's awesome. So, let's just say one more shout out to your organization, and we'll let you go because this is a very stressful show for me because it's the first time we're live in Madison, Wisconsin too. So I'm a little nervous
I
here.
told Robert to pretend we're not in Madison.
One last little push to tell us a little bit about your your Facebook page and your phone number and what you do here in the next 30 seconds.
Okay, Nitamising Gimashkikinaan. That means our first medicine in the Anishinaabe language. We offer support to Indigenous lactating mothers, new moms, and moms postpartum.
Perfect.
Awesome. Peeny Gigi, thank you so much for being on and enlightening us in a good way about what you guys are doing for our people all over Turtle Island. Yeah. I really, really appreciate you stopping in.
Yep, you were just listening to Jasmine FunMaker with the Indigenous Perinatal and Lactation Support Group.
Who's about to vote for Robert Pilot for District 4 C1.
As soon as she gets her address fixed up.
We got to help her out with that. Hey, Peeny Gigi for being on. So you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and up next, Dr. Stately. We'll be right back.
Stay with us.
Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul. They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry.
Hi, I'm Alicia Luther-Toms, Certified Financial Planner with RBC Wealth Management. You might think you have to give up performance to invest responsibly, but that simply isn't true. Responsible investing can actually have a positive impact on performance. We will work with you to come up with a strategy that matches your values. This is Alicia Luther-Toms at 612-770-4460 or alicia.luther.toms@rbc.com.
RBC Wealth Management, a division of RBC Capital Markets, LLC, member NYSE, FINRA, SIPC.
With the heating season ending, hot summer days are just around the corner. And while that's great for being outside, it's not so nice for your house. During summer, an improperly sealed attic could literally be showering your family with mold spores, allergens, dust, rodent waste, and even insect parts. So stay comfortable and healthy this summer with Air Seal Tech, Minnesota's premier insulation contractor. Air Seal Tech can provide a free, no-obligation test to see if you're breathing that attic funk. Call 612-888-3664. That's Air Seal Tech. They bring comfort home.
Not only does Rudy Luther Toyota have a great selection of new vehicles, but Rudy Luther is also one of the largest volume Toyota certified used vehicle dealers in the country. They have better prices than many non-certified dealers, offer the 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and all their vehicles go through a comprehensive inspection and reconditioning process. And they pay you top dollar for your trade-in, even if you didn't buy your vehicle from them or if you're not going to buy your next vehicle from them. Rudy Luther Toyota, the southeast corner of 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
This is David from The David Pakman Show, where we expose the hatriots, liars, and Trumpists on AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Learning a musical instrument is good for your brain. For adults, it can lead to improvements in working memory, resilience to age-related hearing loss, and lower your levels of stress and depression. According to University of Texas research, it's more effective than brain training games. At School of Rock Eden Prairie, you're never too old to learn to play an instrument. Visit EdenPrairie.schoolofrock.com. That's EdenPrairie.schoolofrock.com, or click on the link on am950radio.com.
We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Work St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for showers and storms overnight with a low around 51. Tuesday, partly sunny with a high near 63. Wednesday, showers and storms with a high near 62. And Thursday, partly cloudy with a high around 59. Cafe Latte is the Eat Local Minnesota Restaurant of the Week. They have a bakery specializing in fresh breads and desserts, including their renowned chocolate turtle cake. Plus, they have a large variety of box lunch items ranging from sandwiches to truffle plates. Cafe Latte's on Victoria and Grand and St. Paul. Details at eatlocalminnesota.com.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice, and the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Did you like that, Wendy? I was dramatic for our crowd in Madison there.
Yeah, we're in Madison, Wisconsin for the first time.
Yeah, and
live.
Today. We have one of our favorite guests on that talks about medical things. He's Dr. Stately, and he's the CEO at the Native American Community Clinic. And I'm telling you, we are way ahead of the game here when it comes to our tribes and our communities, our Native communities, vaccinating people and staying on top of these things. Dr. Stately, welcome to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake. Did you like that? It was dramatic for all the Wisconsin people.
Yeah, you should add some really great dramatic music in the background. Nice. I really enjoyed that last spot. Jasmine did an awesome job, and I didn't know about that program. And of course, working in healthcare, we see lots of pregnant women in our clinic, and lots of those women need resources and support. So I'm going to be looking those folks up and calling Jasmine or emailing her.
Yeah, it was awesome to have her on too. The same day that you're on, we kind of have our little medical Monday. I just made that up, and it was M&M, and sounds kind of rhymey and cool.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job on filling up the M&Ms for all the diabetics out there. And keep me busy.
Oh. Hey, so what do you got for us? What's happening nationally and locally here in Indian country with our we got numbers spiking in some states.
We do. Actually, so recently, I think, Minnesota was doing a great job for a really long time, kind of doing a phenomenal job with the rollout of the vaccine. Our earliest sort of efforts around that work were going along really well. But we've seen a little bit of a slowdown in the uptake of the vaccine after we sort of got everybody 65 and above vaccinated. And over the last couple of weeks, this has been opened up to a larger pool of individuals. I think it was 3 or 4 weeks ago that the governor in Minnesota sort of opened it up to folks, outside the bandwidth of 65. And then last week, of course, he went all the way down to anybody 16 and above can get a vaccine if you're able to get it, right? But as I think some of the things that are really challenging and concerning, I was on the weekly call with MDH this week, earlier this morning, and some challenges that we're having. I think we're seeing a slower uptick of folks being willing and interested in taking the vaccine when it's available to them. And I know there's all kinds of reasons why people have what we call vaccine hesitancy, right? They're concerned about any number of things related to the vaccine, how fast it was made, the side effects that may happen as a result of it, concerns that they may feel unwell for a day, 2, 3, maybe longer. And maybe perhaps they'd have to take time off of work, and if they have, the only person working and feeding their family, they might be concerned about not being able to do that, right? And so I think that all those concerns are, of course, very valid. I have many family members that are in that situation as well. I think one of the things that I would say is a bigger concern is that when we look at, Minnesota, about maybe within the last month, we started seeing the variant, the B117 variant, which is the variant from Great Britain, kind of showing up here in the United States a month and a half ago. And within the last month, we started seeing it show up in Minnesota. And what we've seen over the last 45 days is that variants went from a very small number of the new cases in Minnesota to being well over half of all new cases being the Great Britain variant, and other variants are not too far behind them. And we are seeing increased positivity rates in the 10 to 19-year-old category of folks, which suggests and is consistent with what we understand this variant to be highly transmissible and much more vulnerable to younger people in our communities. If you recall, when COVID-19 first came out, it didn't seem like children or young people were at very significant risk. Older people were getting it, and it was hitting those other populations in our community much harder. This is a new trend we're seeing, right? Where children and younger people, especially, and think about 10 to 19-year-olds. They're on spring break this week, right? Many of the schools are out this week. They want to be outdoors. The weather's nice. They want to get together. They want to spend time with their relatives. They want to, go to the mall. They want to do all these things, right, and return to normalcy. And the challenge with that is that we are, of course, concerned and worried that that this outlook does not look good, given the prevalence of the B117 variant. It turns out that actually the other category of the highest positivity rate, like 5% or greater, is the group of 40 to 59-year-olds. So probably like the parents or the of that bandwidth, right? Possibly parents and families doing things together and being outdoors or doing activities together, and being a little less concerned about protection and keeping their social distance and those kinds of things. It's just a good reminder for people to remember to do a better job of that.
I think, go ahead, Wen. I was going to say, I think nationally, we got schools opening and closing within weeks.
Yeah.
And I know I'm fully vaccinated now, doctor, and I'm heading back to teaching next week, but we'll see, right?
Yeah, it's scary. It really is. So the B117, that variant, so far, does it show that the Pfizer, the Moderna, and the Johnson & Johnson vaccines are effective against this B117? So far, it shows that. Isn't it true?
The science is always trying to do a good job of catching up to some of this stuff. But one of the things that we, the manufacturers of the vaccines, and then the scientists that sort of did the basic research on the development of the vaccines, they have studied this, and they believe those 3 vaccines will be very effective in addressing the variants. Johnson & Johnson actually was one of the vaccines that had a higher rate of a higher number of people who participated in some of the clinical trials from parts of the world that did already have some variants in their community, fairly widespread variants. And so we know that that vaccine it has a good a record in preventing serious illness and death with folks who do end up getting the virus. So it has some efficacy from keeping people from getting the virus, and then for folks who still actually get the virus, if they happen to have had that vaccine, their immune system has begun to develop a factory, a response, so that when they do get sick, should they actually catch the virus, they will have a much more serious and deleterious outcome than if they were not vaccinated at all. And I know that that's a lot for folks to wrap their heads around. And one of the things I thought I would just say is, like, I myself, my family, my children, were positive with COVID. We had COVID in early November. My son got sick first, and then I got sick right after him. And so between like the first week of November to the end of November, the first week of December, we were dealing with this. I was in the hospital for a week, and it was a scary time for us. And we all emerged okay, but we also weren't out of the woods completely all of the way. We had to continue to do things like wear masks. They continued with hockey. They had to play when we were able to return to hockey. They had to wear masks and do those things. In fact, recently, and this just kind of happened, this is a new thing. I'm willing to talk about it on in public and on the radio because I think it's important that people know this, right? Here I am. I'm the leader of a clinic that's doing this work, and I have children, and they are engaged in school. They go to school 3 times a week, and they do hockey, and they were in the district championships a week ago, and they won, and that's a great thing. But we found out a couple days ago, or yesterday, I think, that my son's actually had an exposure because somebody on their team had traveled and gone out of state and come back to play the game. And then yesterday he turns up positive, or on Saturday he turns up positive. So I took my children to go get him rapid testing today because it's been about a week since they would have been exposed to him, right? And thankfully they were okay today. I'll test them again in about 4 to 7 days if they have any symptoms. But that's the amount of diligence that we have to pay attention to this. And I know it is hard work, and I know it is really difficult, but it's the only way for us to, prevent this thing from decimating our communities, right? Mm-hmm. Native people historically here in the state of Minnesota have had the highest positivity rate, the highest hospitalization rate, and the highest death rate when they do contract COVID and they do get sick and they end up in the hospital, right? So the reason we need to do these things, the reason we need to encourage people to go get the vaccine if they can, if it's available to you, to get COVID testing regularly and consistently, because many people don't demonstrate symptoms, right? And then this new variant kind of ripping through Minnesota. These are important reasons why we need to stay diligent because, our children and our elders and our ancestors need us to do our work, do our due diligence here and protect.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Stately, and thank you for your honesty and what's going on with you and your clinic and your life. I really, really appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey Cudahy, all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy, but with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are Nitamising Nation.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for...
Take two. You're nervous. We're in Madison.
I know. It's
Go
really
ahead.
getting me.
Take two. Ready.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
And hear Dr. Stately.
That's okay.
Yeah. Hey, Wendy, it was great we were able to keep Dr. Stately on for a little bit here. I know you got a question to start Dr. Stately off again. And Dr. Stately is the CEO at the Native American Community Clinic here in the Twin Cities. Welcome.
Hey, Dr. Stately. Thanks for staying on with us again. So I saw news the other night with a woman. She was a doctor. She was an infectious disease doctor. I believe she had twin daughters, and she was encouraging them to get vaccinated, or she had them in a trial. I can't remember, but I thought it was really fantastic that she was a doctor and that she was on the news, showing people that her daughters were safe in getting the vaccine and to do the trials. Would you encourage, or how could people who have 16-year-olds and older encourage them to get vaccinated?
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, I've had these conversations with my own children. My children are 14. Or 13. They're going to be 14 in about 6 weeks or 5 weeks or less. Of course, they're like, well, we're not going to get vaccinated. We had COVID. We're immune. They have these ideas themselves. And I said, hey, listen here. Let me break some things down for you. And I start to have conversations with them. I'm like, okay. What we do know is that if you've been sick and you do have a natural sort of immune response from actually being exposed to the virus and you survive it, you do have some immunity. But we also know through clinical trials and studies that immunity only lasts for maybe 3 to 6 months. Some studies have shown maybe some limited efficacy 9 months out. So I said, we're with this pandemic for another couple of, I think in all truth and honesty, I said, I imagine that we're in the thick of this at least for the next 24 months, right? 18 to 24 months. We're nowhere near out of the near done with this pandemic. And in all likelihood, what we're looking at is that this pandemic may turn into something where it becomes a manageable thing, but we're going to continue we're not going to go back to what our lives were like before this. We're going to go back to something that, this is manageable, but we're going to have to manage it well, and continue to be cautious and thoughtful, because you had a little bit here earlier on about environmental change and climate change and how that's impacting things. One of the things we do know is that as the planet heats up and all there's other things like these organisms and all these other things that have been frozen in time and they've laid dormant forever, they wake up and we don't know what they're going to do, right? And so it just means that we're going to have to continue to practice and be a little bit more diligent about, public safety, public health. We're going to have to be a little bit more diligent about washing our hands and exercising, those things that your grandma has told you since the beginning of time. Wash your hands, take a bath, cook your food all the way, those kinds of things, right? All that stuff. And I've had this conversation with my children and I said, you are going to get the vaccine when it's your time, and yes, one of them is scared of needles. He doesn't even like to get the flu vaccine. I said, look, you saw daddy get sick. You saw me go to the hospital. I was gone for 8 days. You know that this thing can kill you. So I'm your dad. I'm telling you, you're going to get this vaccine. But most importantly, honey, it's going to hurt for 3 seconds to get the actual needle in your arm. That is way less painful than you being in the hospital for 8 days, 9 days, being away from your family, not having any access to your brother or your dad or other family members, and most importantly, possibly dying alone in the hospital. That sounds horrible to me. Why would you not want to take this vaccine if it was available? And so pretty soon, I think probably by early fall, we will be able to we are likely to be vaccinating children at least 12 and above, which has been a break for my kids. And I think it's also really important that when we get to that point where we're able to vaccinate our younger folks, we have to do that. We have to be willing to sort of, encourage our children and encourage our brothers and sisters and our aunties and uncles to vaccinate their children, because we are seeing this variant rip through the younger population much more faster because it's so highly transmissible. And the vaccines in the next couple of months, the providers and the makers of those vaccines will have come up with boosters. They'll have studied the variants and understand better how to prevent transmission and how to address that issue. So we'll be in a better place in about 3 or 4 months by the time it's time to vaccinate the under 12, the under 16, right? Keeping those little ones safe is a really, really important. I take it seriously as a parent, but I think it's really important also as the director of a healthcare center where I know that, we have some of the highest rates of infant mortality and the mortality of young people due to preventable diseases, right? So we have to do a better job with that.
Well, I think that this really accentuates why we have you on, and that we, had you on
So
for
much
two
good information.
two segments here. Because of what's happening in your life, and also your life as a doctor in the clinic. And this information is so important. I was thinking, we really have to keep you coming on, and we have to have this information. Now it's to convince the parents to get the kids to have a vaccine.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. I was the other day I was in the shower and I was, sometimes I do my thinking in the shower and I was like going, I wonder how I can, make my kids, they're taller than me and they're big. I was like, maybe I can tell them that they're 16 and they'll just figure out a way to get them. But, they go by your birth date and a bunch of other stuff. They'll figure me out, they'll bust me and stick me in COVID jail or something like that. But I'm one of those parents where I am going to do everything I possibly can to protect my kids, right.
And not only your kids, but other people who could be around your kid, you're protecting them as well.
Yeah, well, we had this event over the weekend. I had a bunch of my family members come down from White Earth. We had a little Easter gathering here yesterday in my new house. I had them all out there in the backyard and in the park. bumps up against my backyard. They're out there playing and spending time together and flying kites and throwing footballs and having a great time. And I was feeling good about it because almost everybody else, the adults in my family, were vaccinated, right? So I was feeling pretty confident about it. And most of the time we were spent outdoors, but we ate indoors because it was getting a little rainy. And then I find out this news, and my first thing is, I'm so anxious. I got to get my kids tested. Do I have to tell my family members that I just got them exposed? And do I have to like worry that they're going to take it up home to the reservation and get other people sick? It's a lot of responsibility. It's a tremendous amount of work to stay on top of this, right? And it's my responsibility as a good relative, right, to take care of people and protect them.
Well, and being a good relative, I really appreciate you being on and giving us the real deal on what's happening and sharing your life with us. I want to say again, Peeny Gigi, Dr. Antony Stately.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hey, I want to end with these thoughts. Hey, if you're listening to this show, you are part of the resistance. From Chief Plenty Coops, the ground in which we stand on is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office. Thank you for the guests today, and thank you, Madison, for checking in with us. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
Free Leonard Peltier.
Stop line 3.
When you're trying to stay safe, you want the best protection possible. And when it comes to PPE, that means Lutema. Made in the USA with the highest quality materials.